Strange events are happening all over the world. A giant abalone appears, trees grow endlessly, and the ground cracks open. At Shunwu High, the students ignore the news. They only care about the popular Chu Qingli, who seems to be breaking up with her boyfriend. Everyone is talking about how she got into a great university, while her boyfriend didn't get into a good college. The redhead then says his name is Fang Yi. The red-eyed young man just stares in confusion. Chu Qingli starts by saying she's thought a lot about it. She thinks their relationship has no future. She says high school romances always end. A real relationship needs more than just courage. It has to be realistic. With a superior look, she finally asks to break up. She thinks nothing he does will change her mind. Fang Yi stays quiet and says nothing. The crowd thinks he's too shocked to react. People think he should be on his knees, begging for another chance with the hottest girl in school. Breaking the tension, the young man just replies, "Alright," and gives a casual wave. His reaction leaves the girl and all the other students completely shocked. Without a care, he turns to leave, but the girl calls him back, not believing what just happened. He looks back with a cold expression and asks if she needs anything else. She gets really angry and yells, saying that no matter what trick he tries, she's never coming back. The young man just smirks, showing that he's not the least bit fazed. With a look of contempt, he tells the popular girl not to think so highly of herself. To top it off, the protagonist says he's busy, leaving her speechless and furious. As Fang Yi walks away, the crowd murmurs that he was incredibly direct about the situation. He thinks that Chu Qingli and the others have no idea what's about to happen to the world. He has actually returned from the future, so the girl in front of him is just a stranger from another lifetime. Walking calmly, the young man isn't bothered by anything that went down. He knows there are bigger things to worry about. His school reputation will soon be worthless. The real crisis on the horizon will affect all of humanity, not just him. It all started the night before, with a bright light and a crimson moon in the sky. He knows that spiritual energy will be reawakened in less than a year, bringing changes for everyone. Before traveling back in time, he had no idea what was going to happen to the world. With the change, society's rules will be different. Only power will matter in the new age of cultivators. In his past life, he noticed something strange. He became alert without understanding the situation. Facing a mysterious light, he questions who is there. Suddenly, a golden energy appears in his hand, leaving him quite surprised. A screen appears out of nowhere, revealing a system that creates cultivation techniques based on what he touches. The young man then reaches out his hand, trying to interact with the strange floating blue screen. As soon as he touches the screen, it starts to glitch, showing text that's impossible to understand. From inside the screen, a giant, bizarre monster emerges, trying to snatch the protagonist. However, the creature is stopped by the system screen itself before it can reach him. That was his end as an ordinary person, along with the grim fate of billions of others. The memory of his past life leaves him with a bad feeling, a tightness in his chest. A sudden realization hits Fang Yi as he thinks about everything that happened. With a hand on his chest, he finally understands who his old, weak self was. In his past life, he was just an ordinary person, struggling to survive the disaster. He remembers seeing his nation fall, with people suffering greatly from the cataclysm. In his past life, he couldn't escape the mutant beasts that destroyed the city. The young man was defeated, filled with despair, anger, and a powerful desire for payback. His red eyes reflect the image of the creature that took him down in his past life. Maybe that's why the system chose him, bringing him back 1 year before the catastrophe. Now he knows that most people have no idea about the great change that is coming. With his hand outstretched, he decides he will use every aura anomaly to grow stronger. This time, the protagonist will use all his knowledge of the future to become much more powerful. The system screen then begins to initialize a new evaluation for its new host. His eyes glow with a golden light as the system fully connects with him. The system successfully binds to him, stating that anything can be used as material to save the world. Meanwhile, on the streets, the news shows that humanity is facing an unprecedented crisis. Back in the present, the young man observes the people around him, who continue to live their normal lives. The government neither confirms nor denies the strange phenomena, but tells people to be prepared. The nation of Shia uses a more indirect approach to keep its citizens calm and confident. This method is more effective than the chaos and firefights happening in neighboring countries. He wonders if he should go to where the anomalies are happening, since the system can use anything. With a determined look, he starts searching for news of strange events on his phone. The first news story he sees is about the UV index at Chongqing University, which has hit a record high. 2 people comment that the news is fake. That kind of heat could even be harmful to someone. Looking at the city's cloudy sky, he realizes that something is very strange about the weather. He finds it odd how the weather can change so much. The university is only a 15-minute drive away. A news report advises people to avoid the university's north gate due to the heat. Commenters think it's a lie. He smiles, knowing that when anomalies begin, people always think it's some kind of prank. With a smile on his face, He declares that his first great opportunity has finally arrived. Arriving at Qingqing University, he sees the north gate is completely deserted, just as expected. The young man feels the intense heat and is certain that something very wrong is happening there. Sweat drips down his face as the temperature continues to climb higher and higher. He watches the few people running from the heat and notices something shining brightly on the ground. The protagonist then approaches and extends his hand to touch the small source of light. As soon as he touches the light, a wave of energy hits him full on, leaving him surprised. Without hesitation, the young man kneels and touches the hot ground, which is filled with golden particles. The system detects an intense fluctuation in the yang attribute and begins to unlock a new template. He cries out in pain as the golden energy is forcefully absorbed throughout his entire body. A blast of golden light erupts in the middle of the street, drawing the attention of everyone nearby. People wonder if they're hallucinating, even comparing him to a Super Saiyan or an angel. The young man continues to cry out in pain as his body is enveloped in flames of golden energy. He wonders if the compilation is finished yet, feeling like he's about to be overwhelmed by so much energy. Finally, the compilation ends, he gains the golden sun breathing technique, and his appearance changes. The next day, the university gate is ready to welcome new students under a bright sun. On registration day, new students line up, and a young man offers to help the protagonist's ex. Being very popular, several guys approach her to offer help or invite her to a club. With a cold expression, the girl refuses all offers, saying she doesn't need any help. Nearby, a couple of her friends celebrate being in the same city, but the redhead seems annoyed. Suddenly, a bright light catches the girl's attention, and she looks toward the north gate. A warning over the loudspeakers alerts everyone to avoid the north gate because of the high temperature. She thinks that strange things are happening everywhere and decides to go investigate the situation. At the north gate, a large explosion of smoke and fire occurs right where the protagonist was. Slowly the smoke clears, revealing Fang Yi's silhouette amidst the dust. With his golden eyes shining brightly, he lets out a sigh of relief after everything. The system informs him that the technique requires no learning, and he has gained 50 compilation points. Holding the blue screen, he wonders what these compilation points he just received are. The young man closes the system screen, not worrying too much about the details for now. He decides it doesn't matter right now. He'll figure out how to use those points later. Using his new technique, he begins to absorb the sun's energy to become even stronger. As he absorbs the energy, the sun begins to shine again with much greater intensity than before. People notice the sky darkened for a second. Someone shouts that there are people at the north gate. A curious crowd rushes to the north gate to see what caused all the commotion. The university president arrives and asks why everyone ignored the danger warning. Without waiting for answers, he and his men walk through the smoke still lingering in the area. A hooded figure orders the perimeter to be reset and the north gate area to be sealed off. A system message appears for Fang Yi, saying he has purified a grade A polluted zone. He's surprised to learn the Xia government has already designated these locations and wonders if there are others like him. A new alert on the loudspeakers warns about unauthorized people near the gate and calls for an evacuation. The crowd wonders if the uniformed men are from the army and what is happening there. Seeing the confusion, the young man realizes the commotion is attracting too many people, and he needs to leave quickly. With a great leap, he decides it's time to get out of there before he's caught in the middle of it all. The hooded figure observes the dust and slowly approaches to investigate the site. With light steps, the mysterious person walks through the smoke toward the center of the explosion. Crouching down, the hooded figure touches the ground, analyzing what's left of the protagonist's energy. Looking at the dust on their fingers, the person realizes the phenomenon was caused by someone. The figure wonders if someone else came into contact with the aura earlier than expected. As the students are evacuated, the hooded person watches the scene attentively. Fang Yi's ex-girlfriend overhears the conversation and is shocked to learn the event was caused by someone. She remembers the figure that leaped away and wonders if it could have been her ex-boyfriend. However, she quickly dismisses the idea, thinking that with his grades, it would be impossible for him to be there. Back home, the young man is lying in bed, his body continues to emanate an intense heat. He doesn't understand what's happening, as the heat in his body simply won't go away. Cold showers and air conditioning don't help. He fears he won't be able to sleep well tonight. Worried, he wonders if, with today's commotion, anyone could have noticed his presence. He decides to check the news and sees that the Aura Cultivation Association has updated the cultivation realms. He remembers that this association has appeared online before, but everyone thought it was just a joke. He then recalls the hooded figure at the university and wonders if they are from the association. Without wasting time, the protagonist clicks to open the news story to see what's written inside. The page details the cultivation realms. Although the comments think it's fake, he suspects it's official. In his past life, he never heard of the association, as an ordinary person just trying to survive. He thinks this might be a signal from the government and decides to try using his new breathing technique. The young man then sits in a meditative position, with his eyes closed to begin practicing. His body starts to glow with a golden energy as soon as he focuses on the sun technique. As he meditates, he begins to float in the air, with the golden energy swirling powerfully around him. The first step of the technique is to refine the physical body so it can contain the aura of heaven and earth. He needs to control the aura and shape it into the form of a divine axe, creating an energy vortex. His eyes glow with a white light, and a smile forms on his face as he masters the power. He ascends to the Dashuai realm. The system congratulates him and mentions the compilation points. He remembers the compilation points. The system explains what they are, making the young man curious. The message says he can use the points to embed the compiled data into any object. Looking at his nightstand, he thinks about the possibility of using the ability on an object. The protagonist reaches for a mug and wonders if that counts as any object. The system asks if he wants to spend 1 point to embed the yang attribute into the glowing mug. With a smile, he understands he can enchant objects. If he chooses yes, the mug will gain the yang attribute. He knows he can create various weapons with different attributes and won't be limited to just one. The young man looks at a small decorative sword on his shelf and decides to run a test with it. A custom weapon with supernatural power will be crucial for surviving the future that awaits him. He decides to test the ability on the sword. If it works, he'll order a real one. Suddenly, a strange light shines from outside, catching his attention. In the nearby forest, a dark creature with glowing red eyes begins to move. The creature reveals itself to be a giant, monstrous cat with sharp teeth and enormous claws. Another creature, a black rabbit with red eyes, also appears in the darkness of the night. Inside his room, the protagonist hears strange noises coming from outside the window. He turns to the window with a tired expression but soon realizes something is wrong. With his red eyes glowing, he wonders where the rat-like sound he heard came from. He concludes the sound isn't coming from inside the house or the pipes and gets up to check. With his enhanced hearing, he finds it normal to hear sounds from the neighbors, but this noise is different. He focuses to listen better. His ear glows with a blue light as he listens. Lying in bed, he realizes that something is very wrong with the sounds he's hearing. The young man turns and sees an icy crack forming on his bedroom door. In the hallway, a monstrous creature with black fur and red eyes glares at him angrily. He recognizes the creature as a mutant rabbit, and remembers the chill he used to feel seeing them. On top of a building, a blue-haired girl watches a helicopter, regretting she didn't catch the rabbit. With a lollipop in her mouth, she comments that the creature's speed is insane and hard to keep up with. She asks to keep the updates synchronized and prepares to continue the hunt. With an incredible leap, the girl jumps off the building and runs through the city at high speed. She can sense the mutant beast's aura and quickly approaches the location where it is. Her blue eyes shine with determination as she prepares to face the creature. The girl lands hard on another building, ready to continue her pursuit of the rabbit. She detects the night aura again and realizes the target has entered a residential area. The hunter warns everyone to be careful, as the rabbit will continue to evolve and get stronger. A man in a building sees the girl jumping outside and is completely terrified. He wonders if he's hallucinating from working overtime. His boss scolds him for being distracted. The rabbit appears at the window of the 65th floor, right in front of our protagonist. The creature lets out a terrifying screech and charges forward to attack the young man in his room. With incredible reflexes, the protagonist easily dodges the monster's attack. His body has changed a lot. He can now see the rabbit's movements in slow motion. A golden energy gathers in his hand as he prepares to counterattack the monster. He's surprised that mutant beasts like this have appeared so early in the timeline. The creature hasn't fully evolved yet. It uses the night attribute to increase its power. The young man knows he needs to stop the monster, or everyone in the building will become food for the creature. With a swift move, he manages to grab the mutant rabbit with his bare hands. The creature tries to bite the protagonist's arm but can't pierce his skin. With a determined look, he holds the monster firmly, preparing for his next move. He spins the rabbit in the air and aims for its tail, which he knows is the creature's weak spot. With a powerful kick, he sends the monster flying through the window, shattering the glass into pieces. The impact of the kick causes the window glass to explode into countless sharp fragments. The young man jumps through the window after the creature, ready to continue the fight outside. With his fist glowing with golden energy, he prepares to deliver the final blow to the rabbit. The strike hits dead on, sending the monster flying with devastating force. A beam of golden energy hits the creature in mid-air, causing a massive explosion. The monster catches the energy with its paws, but the force of the blow pushes it back violently. Surprised, he realizes the creature is trying to absorb his power, the yang attribute. He thinks the rabbit is digging its own grave by trying to absorb such a dominant power. A huge explosion of golden light erupts in the air, completely disintegrating the creature. A neighboring couple hears the noise and wonders if it was thunder they heard outside. The man looks out the window but sees nothing unusual and goes back to bed. The protagonist lands in the forest after defeating the mutant rabbit with his power. He thinks about how the creature acted like a hungry ghost, trying to devour his energy. Still surrounded by golden energy, he observes the spot where the creature was defeated. On the ground, he finds a red eye with black ooze, which belonged to the monster he faced. With a serious expression, he stares at the creature's eye, not understanding what it is. With a stomp, he crushes the creature's eye, which dissolves into a pool of dark liquid. He finds it strange for a nocturnal creature to be so desperate and concludes it must have been starving. He thinks that if he were still an ordinary person, everyone in the building would have been devoured. With a determined look, he knows he needs to collect more techniques to fight against threats like this. The blue-haired hunter arrives in the forest, leaping between trees at high speed. She lands nimbly on the ground and starts searching for any sign of the creature. With her eyes wide with surprise, she can't believe what she's seeing. The girl finds the rabbit's remains and wonders if the creature was really defeated. She approaches the monster's remains to recover the creature's residual night attribute. Upon touching the remains, she feels a warm, golden energy emanating from the battle site. The scorching aura burns her hand, leaving her surprised by the intensity of the power she feels. She recognizes the aura as the same one from the North Gate and concludes it can't be a coincidence. The hunter contacts her team via communicator, preparing to give her report. She informs headquarters that the rabbit was defeated by a new forerunner with a high-level attribute. On the other end of the line, someone asks if the zone Purification and the rabbit's defeat were done by the same person. A man at headquarters confirms there are no records of this person in the association's database. The girl agrees and prepares to follow new orders from her command team. She tucks the small flame into her chest and prepares for her new mission to find the forerunner. Her mission now is to track the forerunner and, if possible, convince him to join the association. She unwraps a new lollipop and gets ready to begin her search for the mysterious alley. With a sigh, she accepts the new mission, but not without making a small demand first. She says she needs a milk tea and wonders who this mysterious person she has to find is. The university president, amidst the flames, thinks that the forerunner is a master and he must meet him. The next morning, the protagonist wakes up and stretches by the window, enjoying the sunlight. He says waking up early is good for cultivation and shows off his muscular, well-defined body. Sitting on the bed, he begins to operate the breathing technique to train. His eyes glow with an intense golden light as he concentrates on his morning cultivation. He feels the technique's aura manifesting, circling around the divine axe he creates. The axe's energy explodes in a brilliant light, and he's surprised by the speed of his advancement. His eyes shine with power as the energy of the breakthrough flows through his entire body. He feels the power in his fist and prepares to test his new strength with the axe. The young man notices the axe is lighter. Cultivation is like chopping wood, it requires persistence. He grips the axe firmly, preparing for the next step of his training. With a powerful motion, he lifts the energy axe and strikes it against the ground with force. The system congratulates him for advancing to the 2-star Ghost Axe realm. Golden flames appear in his eyes as he feels the power surge in his body. He feels his body is even more resilient and realizes his rapid progress is due to the residual energy. Even with the quick advancement, he knows he still hasn't used all the energy he's stored. From now on, he needs to level up step by step to grow even stronger. He realizes his cultivation is too conspicuous and decides he needs to find a quieter place. In the association's office, a gray-haired man seems to sense something strange in the air. He detects a fluctuation of solar energy and wonders if it's the same forerunner from before. In a secluded spot, he sits by a river, preparing his sword for enchantment. He confirms the decision. A golden energy powerfully envelopes his body and the sword. He remembers trying to use a figurine as a weapon, but it couldn't withstand the attribute's power. This time, he feels the blade and his power resonating as if they shared the same origin. The system informs him that the encoding was successful. The sword is now enchanted with his power. He says this is a good weapon and prepares to test its power with a strike. With his red eyes glowing, he is surprised by the amount of power the sword emanates. A massive explosion of golden energy occurs when he tests the power of his new weapon. With a swift motion, he cuts a mountain in half with a single swing of his sword. He's relieved that he didn't accidentally start a forest fire with the power of his attack. The young man realizes the attack was very loud, and the smoke has probably already given him away. The hunter runs through the forest complaining that she missed her chance to find the forerunner. She regrets going out to buy tea, which caused her to miss the opportunity by a hair. Suddenly, she stops upon seeing a hot spring that has formed where the mountain was cut. The girl wonders what the Buddha statue did there, and how she's going to restore the site. She cries at the thought of getting another scolding from the cleanup department because of the forerunner. Suddenly, she notices something strange and sees a golden energy emanating from a rock. The hunter is shocked to realize the Forerunner's aura has already advanced to the 2-star level. Spirit weapons are infused with attributes, giving ordinary weapons extraordinary power. She is surprised because the association only has 2 spirit weapons and wonders how he has one. With a thoughtful expression, the girl remains silent as she analyzes the situation. She says it was just a joke and must have been a mistake on her part, trying to play it off. Walking through the forest, the young man thinks his weapon now has the Yang attribute, but doesn't know if it's limited. He wonders if he can implant other attributes into the weapon, stacking properties to become stronger. Suddenly, he receives a message from someone claiming to be a pioneer and inviting him to a group. Fang replies that he's a rookie. The other user comments on the rumors about the national team. He's surprised to learn that even official military recruits are only at the Ghost Axe realm. The user invites him to explore a new pollution zone, and he's interested in the opportunity. The young man asks for the location and receives a compressed file with the new zone's data. He extracts the file and begins to analyze the information about the new danger area. The pollution zone has the same young attribute as him. The young man sees a great opportunity there. Without hesitation, he replies that he's in, accepting the invitation to explore the new zone with the group. In the Binmu district, a group of people waits for a new member to arrive for the exploration. They comment that thanks to the detailed map, they were able to find the location without any trouble. The girl who invited them thanks everyone for coming and asks them to be careful inside. She introduces herself as Zhang Xiaya and laments not having found any standout pioneers. Many pioneers don't know that the association is actually a very selective government agency. She remembers how hard it was to pass the tests and how her family had to use connections. She complains that if they don't find anything, they'll have to work overtime. One of the guys comforts her. Suddenly, the protagonist arrives at the location and introduces himself to the group as the new team member. Ashoya is surprised by his strength. She notices his aura isn't oppressive but rather welcoming. With the group assembled, they enter the cave to begin exploring the pollution zone. The protagonist offers to take the lead and asks the girl to handle lighting the path. They venture into the cave. One of the group members gets spooked by a drop of water. The young man feels welcomed by the group and realizes their friendship is sincere and genuine. He stops suddenly upon feeling something strange. The entire group halts with him in the cave. They reach a part of the cave with a river of lava and are impressed by the scene. The protagonist moves forward. The group tries to warn him of the danger, but he doesn't stop walking. He plunges his sword into the lava. The group panics, thinking he's gone mad. A massive explosion of lava erupts, throwing all the group members back. The system detects a worldwide anomaly and begins to analyze and encode the new power. The inner flame has explosive properties and is extremely destructive, according to the system. The new Scarlet Flame sword technique unleashes immense power when combined with battle intent. He grips the sword firmly as the new technique is incorporated into his weapon. With a smile, he realizes the new technique perfectly complements his sword. He uses the points to embed the inner flame into the sword. The group watches him in astonishment. The sword absorbs the lava's energy, gaining a new appearance with red and golden flames. One of the group members comments that it was just a cultivation accident and that he seems fine. Everyone feels that the spiritual energy has changed. They can absorb it much more easily. Xiaoya tells them to train while she keeps watch, gathering information for the association. Suddenly, Xiaoya notices the arrival of other pioneers and warns her group to be on alert. A group of muscular men appears and tells them to leave, because the land now belongs to them. She realizes she can't fight them, as they are all at the 1-star Ghost Axe realm. Xiaoya tries to reason with them, saying they can team up and explore the cave together. The group's leader laughs at her and threatens her, telling everyone to get out or they'll regret it. She knows that with survival of the fittest, weak pioneers don't deserve resources. The protagonist stands up with a cold expression. He approaches the group of men. He faces the group's leader and questions why he's intimidating a defenseless girl. With his flaming sword, he prepares for combat against the group of bullies. The protagonist attacks. The group tries to defend themselves, but his strength is far greater. The group's leader is shocked by the young man's power and can't believe what he's seeing. He yells for his men to retreat, but it's already too late to escape the attack. Xiaoya's friends, who were meditating, are startled by the commotion and quickly stand up. The protagonist knows that many tragedies happen because of the law of the strongest among cultivators. He knows that just talking won't scare people like them. He needs to show his strength. With a swing of his sword, he embeds the blade in the ground, right in front of the group's leader. He tells the group to get out of there. A wave of golden energy spreads through the cave. The group's leader is terrified by the second explosion and wonders what kind of monster he is. Without a second thought, the group of men flees the cave, afraid of the protagonist's power. As Xiaoya's group celebrates the victory, praising the protagonist for his incredible power and bravery, the protagonist smiles and says they crossed the line, then asks if everyone is ready to go. The group agrees. Xiaoya thinks that if his strike had hit, they all would have turned to ash. She observes him and concludes he must be a high-level pioneer with incredible talent. With determination, she decides she must report her findings to the organization immediately. In the association's office, a woman answers the phone and asks if another pioneer has appeared. She plays it cool and asks Xiaoya to report immediately if there are any new developments. The woman hangs up the phone. Her coworker watches her with a serious expression. She asks if they were lucky to find 2 high-level pioneers in such a short time. The man says the situation is difficult and that now he even wants to resign from his position. Back in the city, the sun shines. The protagonist walks the streets with a new look. People stare at him, commenting on his cosplay and his very realistic-looking sword. In disguise, he tries to go unnoticed but ends up attracting even more attention. With his hood covering his face, he checks the news on his phone to stay informed. The news talks about cultivation novels becoming a reality. Even a dragon was spotted. He realizes the inner flame is to blame and wonders who revealed his identity to the media. The young man has absorbed a lot of yang energy and feels he can advance a level once more. With no time to waste, he decides to go to the back mountain to train in a secluded place. 5 minutes later, he arrives behind his house on the mountain, ready to begin his cultivation. With a shovel, he starts digging into the forest ground to prepare the site for his training. Suddenly, a white-haired girl named Sukinjing appears, saying she's finally finished her work. With wide eyes, she senses a strange energy and wonders what's happening. An intense light shines on the mountain. She feels an overwhelming energy coming from someone nearby. She wonders who is about to advance to the 3-star Ghost Axe realm. The girl finds the situation monstrous, not believing a realm advancement could cause so much chaos. She decides she needs to go check what's happening and runs toward the energy source. She suspects it might be him and runs with determination to try to reach him in time. The protagonist is meditating, absorbing the energy of nature for his next level up. With intense concentration, he prepares to break through once more and achieve new power. An aura of green and golden energy swirls around him as he masterfully controls the power. The girl watches him from a distance, impressed by the precision and stability of his control. She remembers how she failed when trying to level up and wonders where this monster came from. The hunter compares him to a god descended from the heavens because of his energy control. She sees the divine axe moving eastward and prepares to follow the energy. With glowing eyes, the protagonist continues his cultivation with impressive calm and focus. She compares him to a reclusive master from ancient times because of his strong and experienced mindset. Finally, he manages to advance, successfully reaching the 2-star Ghost Axe realm. The energy wave from the advancement throws her back. She gasps for breath from the intensity of the power. She runs to the spot, but the energy dissipates, and the protagonist vanishes without a trace. The girl regrets losing him again and realizes he already knows she's tracking him. Suddenly, she realizes something. Her eyes light up with a new idea to find the Forerunner. The girl calls out for the senior, asking if he has already left the forest where he was training. The protagonist recognizes her and realizes she's the one who has been investigating him for the past few days. She introduces herself as the captain of the Firefly squad and invites him to join the association. He eyes her suspiciously as she explains she's been following him in hopes of recruiting him. The girl gets nervous, trying to choose her words carefully so as not to offend him. With a cold and distant voice, he simply asks the reason for the association's invitation. She panics, wondering if she should tell the truth or try to be polite with him. She explains that the Shia Nation wants to unite the pioneers to guide and protect them in the future. He says he's not willing to join. He still doesn't fully trust her or the association. The girl is left speechless, with a look of desperation on her face at his refusal. She introduces herself as Sukinjing and says she was an athlete before the spiritual energy revival. Desperate, she shows her association ID and asks him to believe her. He observes her and says he now vaguely remembers her from somewhere in his past. The young man recalls a photo of her at a championship and understands why she runs so fast. He remembers that in his past life, the Shia Nation failed, and all of humanity was wiped out. Now, with the system, he needs to be part of the game, but he knows it's not the right time yet. The girl is happy to hear he remembers her and puts away her ID with a smile. He says he'll think about the invitation. With a quick leap, he disappears into the forest. The protagonist asks her to keep his location a secret. She is surprised by the request. He realizes the association doesn't want to anger pioneers like him and decides to use this to his advantage. He proposes a deal to cooperate. She agrees to file a report with half-truths. Before he can leave, the girl tries to call him back, but he's already far away. He vanishes into the forest, leaving the girl behind once more, unable to catch him. She complains about failing to catch him again and having to erase his tracks. Suddenly, she receives a call and is informed that the anomalous entities have reappeared. She remembers the strange and bloodthirsty creatures she encountered on her previous missions. The creatures are born from the energy of pollution zones. Some become monsters that devour humans. If they are not eliminated, they will continue to devour the world, creating new pollution zones. A strong storm with lots of lightning begins to fall over the city unexpectedly. The heavy rain floods the streets. Citizens are warned not to leave their homes. The news reports on the closure of the tourist area of Yuhuang Mountain due to the floods. With his hood covering his face, the protagonist watches the storm with a serious expression. He feels the enormous concentration of lightning energy and realizes the storm's center is near. The young man climbs the stairs, approaching the source of all that powerful and wild energy. He looks at Yuhuang Mountain and identifies the exact spot where the energy is coming from. With a leap, he runs towards the mountain amidst the heavy rain and lightning from the storm. He lands in the mountain's forest, preparing to investigate the new pollution zone. The system detects a new pollution zone on Yuhuang Mountain and displays the information. With the system screen open, he analyzes the data on the newly emerged danger area. The mountain is a famous tourist attraction. The pollution level of the site is still unknown. Walking through the forest, he prepares to face the dangers of the new pollution zone. His red eyes glow in the darkness as he advances through the mountain amidst the storm. A powerful lightning bolt strikes from the sky, hitting the mountaintop and releasing a massive energy wave. At the association, they monitor the situation and confirm that the danger level is rising. The association's chief asks for a report from Qingjing, who was urgently summoned for the mission. She reports that the mountain is inaccessible. The thunder energy has reached the explosion threshold. Qingjing says the area could qualify for S level, not even she can get close. Even Goofle level explorers would have a 100% fatality rate at the location. They decide to seal off the mountain and send patrols to prevent anyone from going up. The lightning energy continues to strike down hard. The association decides to wait for the energy to subside. The protagonist uses his breathing technique to resist the wild energy of the lightning. He knows that to extract the purest energy, he needs to reach the center of the storm at the peak. Humanity hasn't benefited much from the return of energy. They haven't strived to improve. He knows that in the future, even more terrifying things will appear. He needs to get stronger. He spent points to imbue properties into his sword, but relying on it creates weaknesses. The thunder energy is the perfect opportunity for him to temper his body once more. To strengthen himself, he needs to seek opportunities amidst the transformations of heaven and earth. He absorbs the energy of a lightning bolt with his sword, preparing for the next step of his plan. With the sword charged with energy, he uses it to channel the lightning's power into his body. He cries out in pain as the thunder energy courses through his body, strengthening it with every second. With clenched teeth, he continues to cry out in pain as he absorbs the thunder energy. Blue energy explodes around him. He struggles to maintain control of the wild power. He coughs from the impact of the energy but manages to stand firm and continue the process. The thunder property is a force of divine punishment, wild and difficult to control. The immense pressure makes him sweat. He feels the energy trying to force him to his knees. He wonders how he can make the energy submit to him and looks to the sky for an answer. With an idea, he decides to use the yin-yang breathing technique to absorb the energy. He plunges his sword into the center of the thunder energy, crying out from the intensity of the power. An explosion of red and blue energy occurs. He feels the impact throughout his entire body. He spits out a dark liquid but remains firm, determined not to give up on his goal. He knows he needs to endure until he reaches the summit, face demise to live. He drives his sword into the rock, using all his power to resist the force of the thunder. The violent torrent of energy paralyzes his muscles, but he continues to fight with everything he has. He feels that the energy wants to take him out, but he doesn't let it shake him and continues to absorb the power. A massive wave of blue energy hits him full on. He prepares for the worst that is to come. The system detects a powerful thunder attribute and begins to devise a new technique for him. In the city, people watch the storm, wondering if it's a deity undergoing a trial. The system informs him that he has successfully obtained the refined divine thunder power. He gains 5 writing points for summoning the heavenly lightning and tempering his body in the divine fire. The new technique refines the body, transforming it into lightning for an attack with fierce force. With thunder as his spear and shield, he feels more powerful than ever. He realizes the power of thunder isn't just about destruction, but also about purification and rebirth. The system informs him that the thunder power grants double critical damage to punish evil. He wonders if he should infuse the new attribute into his sword, along with the power of the sun. Adding the thunder attribute might compromise the purity of the solar attribute in his sword. He knows that excessive infusion of attributes could damage the sword and decides not to risk it. With an idea, he decides to implant the thunder attribute into his right hand to use it directly. The system asks if he wants to implant the attribute into the item. He prepares to confirm. With a smile, he confirms the decision, preparing to receive the new power in his hand. The thunder energy concentrates in his right hand. He controls it with perfection and mastery. The next day, the energy on the mountain has subsided. The contamination has dropped to a mild level. Major Han Li from the army arrives on site and concludes that a seeker has been there. Chunjing is surprised to learn another seeker was on the mountain and asks if he is alive. She can't sense his attributes and concludes that last night's rain washed away all traces. He believes the seeker left safely around 8 o'clock last night. The Major explains that the peak had the strongest storm at 7 o'clock. The association's forecast failed. He believes the seeker has thunder-related power. The phenomenon was an opportunity. The Major concludes that the seeker not only survived but may have also been the cause of the change. He says people like him are dangerous because you don't know which side they are on in the war. Back home, the protagonist sneezes, feeling like someone is talking about him somewhere. The association decides to track the new forerunner at all costs, preparing for the mission. They give the protagonist the temporary codename Tyrant because of his overwhelming power. The Union hopes to recruit Tyrant as soon as possible and decides to suppress the news about him. The Major reports that there is a high-ranking candidate trying to make contact with Tyrant. Chunjing is surprised to be called to present her report to Major Han in person. She informs him that Tyrant is the same candidate who purified the anomaly at the university's north gate. The girl despairs at the thought that her identity will be exposed if she isn't careful. The Major listens attentively to her report, intrigued by the solar element she mentions. He praises her for her good work and says he needs young people like her to advance the association. The meeting ends. The Major decides to release misleading news about natural disasters to calm the public. Back home, the protagonist gets ready to dry his clothes with his sun technique. Using his breathing technique, he manages to dry his coat in a matter of seconds. He picks up the dry coat and prepares to put it on, testing the new power of his right hand. After adding the thunder attribute, he feels a clear change and feels stronger. His right hand has undergone a physical transformation. It is now the strongest part of his body. He feels he is about to reach a new breakthrough point and prepares to train. The young man is surprised by how easily he controls the thunder attribute, which was once so violent. Suddenly, an alert appears on his phone, drawing his attention to a new story. He wonders what's happening and picks up his phone to check the latest updates. A breaking news report informs that the National Union of Xia has issued emergency warnings for the country. He knows the warnings contain opportunities. He must try, even if it costs him his life. With a confused expression, he looks at the news, trying to understand what's happening. The news reports an explosion at a chemical plant, with no casualties. In the comments, people report a sinister feeling of coldness at the explosion site. He feels he knows that sinister, cold smell and tries to remember where he smelled it before. Suddenly, he remembers that terrible, evil thing from his past life with great fear. He recalls a monstrous creature with red eyes, devouring people amidst the rubble. The image of a giant rat with multiple red eyes haunts him. He wonders if it's the same creature. With a serious expression, he prepares to face the threat that haunted his past. These creatures love the darkness. They transform into intelligent beings with insane powers. He knows this creature is 100 times more dangerous than the rabbit and must be stopped before it evolves. With his hand glowing with blue energy, he prepares to test his new power of 300% critical damage. The rain continues to fall. The city grows darker and more dangerous with the new threat. The association's extermination team tracks the anomaly, known as night candlelight. The creature merges with the darkness and enjoys eating humans, making clicking sounds. The team knows that with the rainy weather, the creature will definitely start feeding. With determination, the team leader says they cannot allow that to happen under any circumstances. At the command center, new information about the creature's file is uploaded to the system. The extermination campaign is upgraded to Priority B and must be completed within 12 hours. The extermination team prepares for the mission. The entire city goes on high alert. The extermination team receives orders to continue tracking, with the priority of preserving their own lives. With their blades in hand, the team prepares for the hunt, following orders from headquarters. The team leader knows that 12 hours is the best that headquarters can offer at the moment. Suddenly, an alert appears on the headquarters screen with new information about the mission. Leader Su Qingjing is in the area. She can be dispatched to assist with the extermination mission. The extermination team leader is grateful and hopes she arrives quickly to help with the hunt. With a serious expression, the leader and his partner await the arrival of extra help for the mission. But Chunjing arrives and questions if it's their fault she has to work overtime again. The extermination team leader says this isn't just any overtime, they're dealing with a monster. She says the extermination team looks strong enough and that her team is pulling out. The extermination team leader hurries to apologize and asks her to cooperate in the search. The two teams join forces on a rooftop, preparing to begin the hunt across the city. With a sphere of blue energy in her hand, Chunjing uses her ability to locate the creature. The energy transforms into a vortex, pointing to the exact direction where the creature is hiding. They find the creature in a dark, damp place, feeding on something in the rubble. With the sabotage team ready, Qingjing prepares to begin the extermination operation. The creature senses their presence and stares at them with its red eyes glowing in the darkness. The target detects the presence of the sabotage team. They activate the formation immediately. One of the team members attacks the creature, luring it to the east as planned. The team positions themselves at the four corners, surrounding the creature so it cannot escape. With the encirclement complete, the extermination team prepares to attack the creature with full force. One of the team members moves in to attack the monster, but the creature is faster and dodges. With a claw swipe, the creature attacks the hunter with surprising force, sending him flying. The hunter cries out in pain as he is thrown back by the monster's powerful attack. The creature lands on a rooftop, preparing for its next attack against the team. Red wounds appear on the monster's back as it prepares to unleash a new power. The creature lets out a devastating sonic scream that creates shockwaves throughout the city. Chunjing warns everyone to be careful of the sound waves and to get back as quickly as possible. The shockwave hits the team, throwing them back with overwhelming force. One of the team members asks if the commander is okay and prepares to continue the fight. The team leader knows that if they hadn't retreated in time, their bones would have been broken. The creature inflates its neck, preparing to unleash an even more powerful attack. A toxic green smoke pours from the monster's mouth, spreading rapidly through the city. The creature dives into the green smoke, preparing to use a new power against the team. One team member warns that the dark, corrosive energy breaks down materials on contact. The team maintains formation, preparing to face the new threat from the toxic creature. One of the hunters prepares to attack, keeping the creature busy while the others get into position. Suddenly, the creature's eyes glow in the darkness as it prepares for a new attack. The creature strikes one of the team members with its wings, throwing him against a building with force. The team leader yells not to let the monster escape, and they run to pursue it. The creature flies through the city, leaving a trail of toxic green smoke wherever it goes. Qingjing notices the energy concentration has increased and decides to enter the factory with the team. They enter the abandoned factory, and she prepares to assess the energy concentration on site. She uses an association device to measure the energy, explaining that the maximum the team can handle is 50. Suddenly, the device shows the energy concentration has surpassed 80 and is still rising. They realize the location doesn't just contain one anomaly. A giant snake appears in the darkness. The team is shocked by the appearance of the second creature, preparing for the worst to come. The team leader realizes it was a trap and yells for everyone to retreat quickly. Chunjing and her team run towards the gate to try to escape the abandoned factory. She feels her eyes and her entire body being poisoned by the creature's toxic gas. The girl falls to the ground and cries out in pain as the poison spreads rapidly through her body. She feels alone and realizes she can no longer sense the presence of her companions. The snake's black mist is toxic. She realizes they've been poisoned since they entered. Chunjing remembers they were led to the factory on purpose. It's the lair of another creature. She feels her spiritual energy depleting and knows that without her protective shield, she will soon be done for. The girl wonders what kind of monster this is, to have such advanced combat intelligence. Suddenly, a bright light illuminates the factory. She turns to see what's happening. With tired eyes, she watches the light, wondering if it's hope or just an illusion. A large explosion occurs at the factory gate. A mysterious figure appears in the light. With a determined look, she watches the figure, wondering who the person is that has appeared. The protagonist appears in the light, preparing to face the new threat he has found. He realizes the giant snake is a dark type aberrant and prepares for the fight. The snake attacks him with its tail, but he manages to dodge the blow with a quick move. The monster screams in frustration for missing the attack and prepares to strike again. Suddenly, the other creature appears and attacks him from behind, catching him by surprise. He understands that one creature lures and the other finishes the job, realizing the place was saturated with energy. With a smile, he tells the biting monster to release his thunder power. A beam of golden energy hits the snake full on, throwing it far away with great force. He turns to the snake and asks if it's afraid of fire as flames engulf his body. The snake opens its mouth and launches a green energy attack in his direction at high speed. He dodges the attack and charges toward the snake with his flaming sword ready to strike. With a focused gaze, he tells the snake to watch his blade and prepares for the attack. The snake regenerates from the blow and prepares for a new attack against the protagonist. He charges forward and strikes the snake with a powerful blow from his sword, which glows with energy. With a precise cut, he hits the creature dead on, sending it flying against the factory wall. Suddenly, he notices something strange and stops his attack to observe the creature's movement. The snake splits into multiple heads. He realizes it was a hidden move from the monster. The snake's head is struck by a bolt of lightning as he prepares for the next attack. The creature cries out in pain as the thunder energy violently courses through its entire body. With a smirk, he prepares to finish the fight against the multi-headed snake. He noticed beforehand that the serpent's aura was more intense than the other creatures. Using his sword as a conduit, He channeled the power of thunder into the serpent's body. The other creature was weak in comparison, but the serpent was much more powerful and evolved. Suddenly, he feels a pain in his shoulder and notices snake scales have appeared on his skin. The purple scales shimmer on his shoulder as he prepares to deal with the creature's venom. He realizes the creature's intelligence has evolved, its stealth attacks are deadly. He feels the sting of the venom, but his sun-breathing technique helps him resist it. With his combined powers, he manages to dissolve the venom and purify his body of its effects. The two combined powers alert him to imminent attacks, protecting him from hidden dangers. He knows that for others, the serpent's venom would be incurable, even with protective abilities. The two creatures together form a perfect trap for elite vanguard hunters. He incinerates the creature's remains and prepares to leave the abandoned factory for good. He knows his combat skills are now among the best of the vanguard team. He watches the flames and prepares to leave but senses someone's presence nearby. With the fire reflecting in his eyes, he extends his hand and realizes someone is still there. With his red eyes glowing, he turns around, preparing to face the new presence in the factory. He uses his power to clear the smoke and finds Qingjing coughing in the middle of the mist. The girl is weak and covered in soup but manages to stay on her feet after everything. He recognizes her and approaches her and her companions to offer help. The protagonist approaches the girl and tells her to stop pretending to be weak and helpless. He faces her and says she's not very good at playing hurt, leaving her embarrassed. She gets flustered and says she woke up from the stench and wasn't faking being unconscious. He praises her for her strength, saying she managed to retain a bit of defensive aura to survive. She knows he noticed her protective aura and is impressed by his perception. He says she doesn't need to cover her eyes, as long as she promises not to reveal his identity. The girl notices he's being friendlier and says that since everyone is safe, he's leaving now. She tries to call him back, but he's already far away and disappears into the darkness of the night. He says he doesn't need a lot of people talking and leaves the cleanup of the site to her and her team. With a leap, he exits the factory through the roof, disappearing before she can say anything else. He's relieved she didn't see him trying to absorb the dark element and feels disgusted by the sensation. The young man reflects that maybe he couldn't absorb the dark aura because of his inner strength. He regrets not being able to see her face and realizes she still doesn't trust the association. Qingjing wakes up the extermination team leader, telling him the fight is finally over. The man wakes up confused and with a bruised face, not understanding what happened in the factory. He shouts that they were ambushed, but she just looks at him with a smile without saying anything. The team looks at the creature's remains, wondering what happened and where the energy came from. She explains that a vanguard appeared to help them and defeated both creatures by himself. The girl suspects he is her original target and that he has a rare Yang-type attribute. One of the team members is shocked to learn he defeated both creatures alone. They decide to clean up the scene and send the creature's remains to the association for analysis. The team leader feels the brutal energy and is shocked by the intensity of the residual power. He asks Qingjing if the vanguard's attribute is Yang, but the remaining electrical energy is too intense. They find the remains of the other creature and realize the thunder energy is insanely pure. The leader wonders if two high-level vanguards appeared and defeated the creatures together. She knows no one would believe her if she said it was just one person with two attributes. A vanguard with dual high-level powers is practically unheard of, considered a legend. She remembers the protagonist's firepower and mentally calls him the Sun Flame Walker. She also remembers his electrical power and calls him the Thunder Tyrant with admiration. She wonders what kind of monster he is, to have two such powerful high-level attributes. Outside the factory, association agents arrive to investigate the situation. Qingjing's team members hug her, relieved that she is alive and well after the battle. The main task now is to scan the remaining spiritual energy and reconstruct the battle. The investigators analyze the creature's remains and report the incident back to the association. An investigator reports that based on the analysis, there's a 99% chance it was the same person. The extermination team leader is shocked to learn it was indeed a dual, a tribute vanguard. One team member comments that the power difference between them is massive, even though they're at the same level. Qingjing decides she needs to report to headquarters that her target has reappeared and the data has been updated. She reports that Tyrant and the university's North Gate are within her monitoring scope. The head of the association receives the report and orders her to suspend her mission for now. He explains that since Tyrant saved them, he is not an enemy, and they shouldn't engage with him. She has a theory about what happened on the mountain before Tyrant leveled up. The head of the association asks for her theory, preparing to listen attentively. She explains that she felt a powerful aura in the area and suspected he had a spirit weapon. The head of the association is surprised and asks if he really has a spirit weapon. He finds it unlikely, as even if talented, it would be almost impossible to have external help or resources. Qingjing says she felt the energy of a Yang attribute spirit weapon when she found him. The chief suggests that the spirit weapon's energy might come from his own yang attribute. He theorizes that if Tarrant is an expert from the spirit creator realm, he could create a weapon. The Chunjing is shocked, as there are fewer than 5 spirit creators in the entire world. If Tarrant has 3 attributes, it would completely change the world's power landscape. The head of the association says that no vanguard has ever had 3 attributes simultaneously. He hopes that such a powerful vanguard will not become an enemy of humanity in the future. The protagonist gets out of the shower, reflecting on the increase in anomalies and natural disturbances. Many vanguards like him have started training on their own to prepare for the future. He remembers the group from the underground river and how they could sense the changes in the world. Even without national recognition, independent vanguards are already reaching stage 1. The state is being friendly towards wild vanguards, which means they are under observation. He gets dressed and thinks that although the association has been founded, cultivation is not yet public. People talk about the instability. The government tries to protect the public and sound the alarm. He knows the problem is that the government isn't confident in opening the era of cultivation to everyone. He knows the government's soft approach is the best, as human fear is more terrifying than monsters. He wonders if the factory riot was premeditated, if there is a larger force behind it all. The young man realizes the anomalies are evolving faster than he expected and becomes worried. Although they are not as terrifying as the anomalies he saw in his past life, they are dangerous. He knows that if he hadn't followed the Vanguard team, they probably wouldn't have survived. If he can use the dark attribute to his advantage, it could be the key to turning the tables against the monsters. He has high-level techniques that perfectly match his attributes, making him very strong. Even with all his power, he knows it's still far from enough for what's to come. Suddenly, his phone rings. He sees it's his aunt calling him in the middle of the night. He answers the phone, wondering why she's calling him so suddenly. His aunt asks about his health and says his cousin is coming to study near him for a few days. He is surprised by the news and barely remembers his cousin who loves to study. He recalls she was an exemplary student but can't remember what she looks like. The young man agrees to let her stay at his place and asks when she will arrive. The aunt says there's no need, she'll send the address so she can come by herself. She says she'll ask his cousin to bring some local snacks for him as a gift. His cousin is in a chat group, arranging to meet her friends the next day. She turns off her computer, preparing to go to her cousin's house the following day. Suddenly, a news story about a city renamed to Death City catches her attention. She looks at the news about Yanghua City with a serious and intrigued expression. The girl's mother asks if she has packed her things for the trip to her cousin's house. She says she doesn't want to bother her cousin, the hotel was fine, but her mother insists. Her mother warns her not to cause trouble at his house and to help whenever she can. With sparkling eyes, she prepares for the new phase of her life at her cousin's house. She thinks dealing with her cousin will be easier than dealing with the anomalies she faces. In the city, the girl walks towards her cousin's address with her suitcase in hand. She follows the map on her phone, getting closer and closer to her final destination. The GPS informs her that she has arrived at her destination. She prepares to meet her cousin. With her suitcase beside her, she looks at the building and confirms that this is the right place. She sees the protagonist leaving the house and shyly calls out to him to introduce herself. He recognizes her as Lin Yi but is surprised that she is completely unrecognizable. She remains silent, looking at him with a shy and slightly embarrassed expression. They sit in the living room. He asks if she's there for the summer camp. He hands her the key to the guest room and says his room is on the other side. She watches him go to his room, thinking he seems easy to get along with and doesn't meddle. The protagonist wonders if his perception was wrong or if she managed to hide her energy well. He senses a faint spiritual energy coming from her and suspects she has also become a forerunner. She takes out her phone and starts exchanging messages with someone in a chat group. She talks about a dual attribute vanguard and decides not to cultivate for now to avoid being discovered. 3 days later, the protagonist realizes that her presence is disrupting his cultivation. He wonders why his sun-breathing technique is so flashy and if it will be obvious. His cousin calls him for dinner. He realizes the scariest thing is her presence there. He finds her very polite and helpful but is suspicious of her impeccable behavior. He decides not to stop her from doing chores, so she might let her guard down around him. The protagonist eats in silence, observing his cousin to try to figure out her true nature. He believes this is the only way he'll find out what she's really hiding from him. Suddenly, her phone rings. They look at each other with surprised expressions. He asks if it's a friend, but she doesn't answer. He decides to go back to his room. He gets up and goes to his room, leaving her alone to take the mysterious call. She watches him leave and picks up her phone to answer the call with a serious expression. She arranges to meet someone in Yanghua City at 3 o'clock the next afternoon. The protagonist overhears the conversation and wonders about Yanghua City, which is an hour away. He confirms his suspicions and realizes his cousin is indeed a forerunner of the spiritual revival. With her current strength, he knows she won't be able to detect him spying on the conversation. He wonders if her strange temperament is because of her high talent for cultivation. He concludes that the summer camp excuse was false. The real reason is something else. Every major change is an opportunity for him to obtain a cultivation method and get stronger. He wonders what attribute will appear in Yanguo City this time and prepares to go. With determination, he decides that whatever the attribute is, he will take it for himself. The cousin feels a strange energy and realizes something is different but can't pinpoint what. She wonders if it was her imagination or if someone was actually watching her from the window. The next day in Yanguo City, a group of people prepares for a new mission. The protagonist's cousin arrives at the city entrance and is greeted by one of her friends. Her friend asks what her cousin is like and if he's as handsome as internet celebrities. She describes him as an ordinary person, definitely not the type her friend likes. The friend is a bit disappointed by the description but soon smiles again as usual. A red-haired woman arrives, saying the cousin has always described herself as a common face in the crowd. With everyone gathered, they prepare to get down to business and discuss the mission details. One of the members asks if the other girl isn't coming this time. The redhead confirms her absence. The woman says the other one is always mysterious, they're already used to it. From a nearby table, the protagonist watches the group, analyzing their strength. He notices her team is discreet but has considerable and well-balanced strength. The weakest is at level 2, and the strongest is at level 3 of the Ghost Axe realm. He sits down and continues to observe the group, waiting to see what they will do next. With his red eyes glowing, he wonders what is happening on the city's mountain. Suddenly, a giant vine appears, descending from the sky like the beanstalk from the story. The vine appears and disappears at unpredictable moments and has nothing to do with the weather. The red-haired woman is shocked to see the vine and realizes it's the opportunity they've been waiting for. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would never have believed something like this was possible. One of the girls suggests they stop advancing, but the protagonist's cousin looks at her doubtfully. The girl feels a chill down her spine seeing the vine up close and realizes something is wrong. The redhead asks if they've seen the rumors about the vine on the association's internal forum. The girl remembers hearing about a group that tried to touch the vine and disappeared. After that, no one ever saw them again, only their skeletons were found on the vine. She panics at the thought that they will meet the same fate and end up like the others. The group finds themselves in a strange place, preparing for the worst that is to come on the mission. The girl feels like she's facing a completely new and powerful anomaly this time. She cries in fear, saying she's not ready to be taken out there, and wants to give up on the mission. The redhead and the cousin agree with her, saying they feel the same way she does. The cousin explains that the vine has a desolate aura that devours the vitality of anyone who gets close. The girl starts to panic, but the cousin holds her and tries to calm her down so she doesn't lose control. With determination, she says this is the path of martial pioneers, they can't give up. The protagonist watches the vine from a distance, feeling the heavy energy of demise emanating from it. He finds them brave for deciding to cultivate in such a dangerous place full of negative energy. The vine looks like a dead thing disguised as something living, stripped of all its spiritual energy. The cousin says they don't have time to think, they need to act fast to seize the opportunity. She asks everyone to stay in sight and not to stray too far so they can protect each other. With the strategy set, she believes it will be a bit safer for all of them there. She sits on a tree branch, creating an energy barrier to protect herself while she cultivates. The protagonist watches, praising her choice of a spot for maximum benefit without being reckless. The protagonist's cousin begins to level up, a large wave of energy envelopes her. He notices she's already touching the threshold of 3 stars, and is impressed by her talent. She reaches level 3 of the Ghost Axe realm. Her friends celebrate the achievement. Suddenly, the vine's roots begin to move towards the group at high speed. One of the guys notices the danger and prepares to alert the rest of the group about the threat. The vine attacks them. They panic upon realizing they've been spotted from so far away. The team members are captured by the vines, screaming for help as they are dragged away. The cousin's protective barrier is attacked by the vines. She struggles to maintain her defense. The barrier begins to crack under the pressure of the vines. She knows it won't hold for long. The red-haired woman tries to flee, but her friend says they can't leave the cousin behind. One of the guys tries to calm them, saying that life and the end are determined by fate. The cousin's friend is hit by one of the vines and is dragged away with a cry of pain. The red-haired woman refuses to abandon a teammate and decides to fight the vine. The protagonist watches the scene from afar, realizing his cousin has no idea of the danger she's in. The cousin's barrier is about to break. He knows he might not have time to save her. He remembers the promise he made to his aunt and decides he cannot break it under any circumstances. The red-haired woman tries to fight the vines, but is captured and entangled by the branches. She cries out in pain as she is squeezed by the vines, preparing for the worst to come. The cousin's barrier finally shatters, leaving her vulnerable to the giant vine's attack. The protagonist charges forward with his flaming sword, preparing to save his cousin and the group. The friend screams the cousin's name in desperation upon seeing her in imminent danger from the vine. An explosion of fire burns the vines, saving the group from the creature's deadly attack. They see the vine retreating and wonder why it suddenly stopped attacking. The vines twist and pull away from the golden light emanating from the protagonist on the mountaintop. He advances towards the vine with his flaming sword, ready for the final combat. One of the group members wonders if he's also a forerunner and is shocked by his power. The red-haired woman realizes he has an extreme yang attribute, only that could stop the vine. The man in the group feels humiliated for being so easily outmatched by another forerunner. He considers himself extremely talented but acknowledges that the protagonist's talent is superior. He wonders what they are in comparison to such powerful forerunners as the protagonist. The man feels crushed, realizing the protagonist is like the bright moon, and they are just stars. The system detects an extreme wood attribute and begins to self-compile a new technique. The compilation is successful. He acquires a powerful new ability to use in combat. The new technique of eternal vitality can absorb the life force around it to heal wounds. The system begins to extract the vine's attributes so he can use them to his advantage. He extracts the desolation attribute, which can stir the desolate aura and corrode the vitality around. With his green eyes glowing, he understands why the vine can only grow in treacherous terrain. With his new power, he prepares to face any challenge that comes his way. He knows that deprivation is an overwhelming attribute that steals the life force of others. One of the group members thanks him for saving their lives, looking at him with gratitude and admiration. The red-haired woman thanks him and asks how they can repay the favor of him saving them. He says there's no need. He took advantage of their intel to obtain the new attribute. The man in the group says they need to keep an eye on the cousin's movements from now on. The protagonist knows that in times of crisis, people's true nature is exposed. The group wonders what to do now that he's left so quickly, regretting not having helped him. With the threat eliminated, they decide to stay and take the opportunity to train as much as possible. The protagonist's cousin wakes from her cultivation trance with her eyes glowing blue. Her friends rush to her, happy that she has woken up. The group reunites. She looks around and asks what happened and where the other team members are. The cousin feels the remnants of the powerful yang attribute, the pressure of the scorching heat. The red-haired woman explains what happened, how the mysterious vanguard saved them from the vine. The cousin is shocked to learn that someone so strong exists and can hardly believe the story. The man in the group describes him as a monster for having defeated the vine with a single strike. They remember how the vine was forced to retreat by the protagonist's overwhelming power. The vine shrank back into the sky, not daring to approach them again. Back home, she realizes the vine behaves like a tamed rooster because of his intimidation. The protagonist sees her arrive and asks if she's back from her stroll around the city. He notices she looks a bit pale and asks if she's feeling well. She plays it off, saying that studying is a bit exhausting and she needs some rest. He praises her for her hard work and suggests they order takeout for dinner. She complains that advancing consumes a lot of mental energy. It's more tiring than staying up for a month. Lying in bed, she reflects that cultivation is the destiny of pioneers. The world is changing. The protagonist leaves the house, thinking that a normal life like his cousin's is no longer possible. The cousin receives a message in the group and is surprised to see who sent it to everyone. The message is from Garon, who asks to be notified if they find any more traces of the strong man. One of the members asks if the man who saved them is the same one who became famous at the Dark River. Everyone comments on the power of the mysterious vanguard, how he forced them out of the cave. The protagonist goes out on his bike to think about how to evolve and use his new powers. He decides that leaving Xiaoliu at the hospital is also a good option, so as not to disrupt his cultivation. He knows the desolation attribute is closer to plants, and thinks about how to use it. The young man knows it's a malevolent attribute. Putting it on himself could have bad repercussions. Besides, he fears the desolation attribute might conflict with the thunder in his hand. He concludes that the best way is to have something similar to the ghost vine to channel the power. With a smile, he realizes he already knows where to go to find what he needs for his plan. He bikes down the road at night, heading to a place where he can find the perfect plant. He needs to select a plant that resonates strongly with his energy, showing intimacy. With his eyes closed, he concentrates, trying to feel the energy of the plants around him. He arrives at a forest park in the city, preparing to begin his search for the right plant. With his energy, he floats over the flowers, trying to find the one that connects with him the most. He realizes this is the plant's response to his energy and continues his search. He feels the energy growing, but knows it's still not enough for what he needs. With the green energy around him, he continues to search for more power for his plan. Suddenly, he notices something different. His hair changes color to a vibrant shade of green. A white flower glows in the darkness. He wonders if that's the plant he's looking for. He approaches the flower and extends his finger to touch it, testing its connection with the energy. As soon as he touches it, the flower closes, beginning to greedily absorb the energy from his finger. The flower opens again, seeming happy to have absorbed the energy he offered. He finds it very spiritual and notices it acts like a greedy puppy for his aura. The flower nestles in his hand. He is enchanted by the small plant's reaction to his presence. He chooses it, saying its reaction to his energy is the best in the entire forest. With the flower chosen, he prepares to implant the desolation attribute into the small plant. The system asks if he wants to forcefully implant the attribute. He confirms with a smile. An explosion of green energy occurs. The protagonist prepares for the next step of his plan. He turns around and notices the flower's energy is spreading rapidly throughout the entire forest. The flower opens, revealing a lotus-like appearance with a bright and powerful green aura. The plant's leaves grow and become stronger with the infusion of the new desolation attribute. The lotus flower floats in the air, emanating a green energy that drains the life from everything around it. The protagonist watches the flower drain the forest's energy, impressed by its power. He realizes the desolation energy is powerful. The flower wields it like a demon's hand. In just 3 seconds, the flower drains almost the entire forest and continues to spread uncontrollably. The flower shrinks and becomes more compact, concentrating all the power it absorbed from the forest. He decides to stop and pulls the flower from the ground to avoid attracting the association's attention. The young man knows the association is monitoring the area and that the plants are all dangerous. He notices the flower continues to absorb energy even without its roots and is surprised. The absorption becomes gentler. He is impressed by the small plant's spirituality. Suddenly, an alarm sounds. He realizes he has triggered the association's surveillance with his power. He knows it's time to leave and prepares to exit the park before the association arrives. In the plant research department, the abnormality value skyrockets. Everyone goes on alert. They order everyone to put on their bracelets and to isolate the park immediately for investigation. One of the agent's devices shows the number 30. They prepare for the mission. A team of agents enters the forest, commenting on the abnormal energy concentration in the area. One of the agents uses a device to measure the energy, preparing to report the data. One agent says the plants seem to have had their life force drained in seconds. They decide to go further in to find the energy's epicenter and discover what caused it. Suddenly, the team leader shouts for them not to get any closer to the site. An older man appears, warning them not to touch anything as it is the desolation attribute. He asks if they know about the vine that descended from the sky, alerting them to the danger. The agents are shocked to learn that the demonic vine has already been classified as a rank A anomaly. The professor explains that the vine is vicious because of its life, draining desolation attribute. One of the agents feels sick, realizing the professor saved him from a certain demise. The professor explains that for plants with the desolation attribute, their surroundings are a dead zone. He remembers seeing data about another plant with the same attribute in Kang City. The professor says that with the great changes in the world, plant mutation should not be underestimated. He receives an update on the situation and prepares to take the next steps. Major Han arrives on the scene and joins the investigation team to analyze the situation. He orders all research personnel to enter the contaminated zone with protective suits. The researchers put on their suits and prepare to enter the forest and collect data. The team carefully advances through the devastated forest in search of the source of the desolation. They discover that the desolation aura is diminishing. The concentration has already dropped to 25. The Major and Xinjiang decide to investigate, preparing to enter the danger zone. With their auras activated, they advance cautiously to find out what happened in the forest. Two streams of blue energy follow the trail of desolation, searching for clues about the source. At the center of the devastation, they find a blue energy swirling intensely on the ground. The girl and the Major are shocked to realize someone has already excavated the energy source. The Major wonders how this is possible. This person's identity must be investigated. Xinjiang says there is no residual energy, but the data analysis has already found the person's information. She then hands the device with all the information she managed to collect to the Major. On the screen, the protagonist's photo appears, with the name Fang Liang along with his gender and address. The Major says he will send her the data. It's probably the same forerunner from before. Alone in the forest, the girl looks at the tablet, understanding her new mission. 2 hours later, the protagonist places the white flower he picked in a pot on his desk. With a smile, he says it's his first time taking care of a flower and calls it his assistant. The plant glows with green energy. He thinks its ordinary appearance is a perfect disguise. He thinks that strength isn't everything in combat. The most important thing is to have cards up your sleeve. Suddenly, his phone starts to ring. The name on the screen is his old neighbor Wang. He is surprised, as it's his childhood friend who became a soldier. He hasn't seen him in 3 years. In a memory, he recalls his friend at school before he decided to join the army. With his red eyes glowing, he answers the call and asks if his friend is back. His friend invites him for a drink at the usual spot, saying he needs to talk. With a laugh, the friend says he has a secret to tell and asks him not to pass out. After hanging up, the young man puts his phone back on the table, thoughtful. In an office, Wang reports to Chunjin, asking them to ensure his friend's safety. Tapping her fingers on the table, Chunjin just listens to the young man's concern for his friend. The red-haired officer tells him to carry out the mission. If his friend isn't the target, he should just give him some advice.